The Girl in the Ashes. In the year 2142, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The sky was always gray, filled with dust and smoke from the war that ended 5 years ago. Cities were broken. People stayed inside. And no one ever crossed the old industrial zones, not if they wanted to live. Captain Raylan knew this better than anyone. He was a war veteran. A quiet man with tired eyes and strong hands. He lived alone, just outside the dead zone, in a small metal house near the hills. His only company was a rusty cleaning bot and old war memories he never wanted to remember. But that day, everything changed. Raylan was checking his fence when he saw smoke rising from the east. It was coming from the abandoned sector, where no one ever went. Curiosity pulled him in. Rifle in hand, he followed the smoke through broken roads, burned buildings, his boots crunching on black ash. Then he saw her, a small figure lying between the remains of a destroyed warehouse. Her clothes were torn, her skin covered in soot and blood. She was maybe 16, maybe younger. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. Raylan looked around. No footprints. No signs of life. Just her. He should have walked away. He should have called the city patrol. But something inside him whispered, "Help her." He lifted the girl carefully into his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. As he carried her home, she murmured something in her sleep. One word, Lena. Raylan froze. That was the name of his wife. The one he lost during the war. He looked down at the girl. Her face was pale, but strange. Her features seemed familiar, not the same as Lena, but something in her face, in her voice. It brought back a memory he couldn't explain. He shook it off and kept walking. Back at his home, Raylan placed her on a warm bed. He cleaned her wounds and gave her water. Slowly she opened her eyes. Bright green, clear, unblinking. She looked at him, confused and afraid. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You're safe," Raylan said. "My name is Raylan. What's yours?" She blinked, thought for a moment, then shook her head. I don't remember." Over the next few days, the girl stayed quiet. She didn't speak much, didn't eat much. But she watched everything. She watched how Raylan fixed his machines, how he spoke to his old war drone, how he cooked food from cans. And strange things began to happen. One night, Raylan's solar panel failed. He cursed and went to fix it in the dark. Before he could touch it, the girl walked up quietly and touched the wires. In seconds, the panel blinked back to life. Raylan stared at her. "How did you do that?" "I don't know," she said softly. Another time, she walked past a broken radio and it suddenly turned on, playing music from a lost channel no one used anymore. And every night, she would whisper in her sleep. Sometimes she said names. Sometimes numbers. Sometimes Raylan's name. He began to wonder, who was she? Was she just a homeless orphan, or something else? One night, during a storm, Raylan sat near the fire. The girl, who now called herself Mira, sat across from him. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Raylan looked into the fire. "Because I saw someone who needed saving." She tilted her head. "Even if I was dangerous?" Raylan smiled. "Just a little. Everything in this world is dangerous now. But you looked human. And that's all that mattered." She was quiet for a long time. Then, she said something that made his blood run cold. "I know your wife's name," she whispered. "Lena. I see her in my dreams." Raylan stood up, shocked. "What did you say?" "I don't know how. But I see her. I hear her voice. She tells me to find you." The fire crackled in the silence. Outside, the wind howled like a ghost. Raylan didn't know what to believe. But deep inside, something had started. A strange feeling he hadn't felt in years. Hope and fear. As the night grew darker, Mira looked out the window. Far in the sky, a small red light blinked, high above the clouds. A satellite, perhaps. Or a drone. She stared at it for a moment longer than she should have done, and for the first time. She smiled. She's not what she seems. It started with the pun. Toaster. 3 days after Myra arrived, Raylan's old toaster, broken since the war, suddenly worked again. It popped out bread, perfectly golden, without anyone turning it on. Raylan stared at it. Myra walked in from the other room. She looked at the toast. Then at Raylan. "You're welcome," she said with a small smile. Raylan didn't laugh. "You fixed this?" "I think so," she said. "It told me what was wrong." Raylan blinked. "It told you?" She tilted her head. Not with words, more like feelings. He had no idea what that meant. Machines don't feel. Machines don't talk. But this girl, she was something else. Myra didn't behave like a normal teenager. She barely ate. She didn't ask about the outside world. But she was curious about every machine in the house. She would sit beside Raylan while he cleaned his old war drone. She didn't speak much, only watched with sharp, quiet eyes. One evening, the drone glitched. It froze mid-boot up. Raylan muttered, trying to fix it. Myra reached out. Her fingers gently touched the drone's panel. The lights blinked. Then, blinked again, and then. The drone stood up straight. "Unit online," it said in a robotic voice. "System fully restored." Raylan stepped back. "What did you do?" "I listened," she said simply. He looked at her carefully now. Not like a guest. Not like a child, but like a puzzle. That night Raylan couldn't sleep. He stood outside looking up at the stars. The night was quiet, but not peaceful. His mind was full of questions. Who was this girl? She had no ID, no memory, no past. And yet, she could fix things even military engineers couldn't. And what about the name she said? Lena, his wife's name. Could it be coincidence? Or was it something worse? He looked back at his house. Myra was sitting in the dark, staring at the fire, her green eyes glowing slightly. Just slightly. The next day, Raylan drove into the outskirts of the trade post. He met an old friend, Dr. Kassel, a former military scientist now running a private lab. Raylan didn't waste time. "I found a girl," he said. "In the ashes, no memory, no ID, but she does things." "What kind of things?" Kassel asked. "She fixed my drone, rebooted it." "No tools, no commands, just touch." Kassel raised an eyebrow. "You think she's enhanced?" "I don't." "No," Raylan said, "but I need answers." Kassel nodded. "Bring me a sample, blood, skin, anything. I'll test it quietly." That night, Raylan took a small blood sample from Myra while she slept. He hated doing it. But he needed to know. Next morning, Kassel called. His voice was shaking. "Raylan, she's not normal." "What do you mean?" "Her DNA. It's human, mostly. But there's something else. Artificial strands, nanotech fused into her blood. This isn't natural." Raylan gripped. "The receiver. What are you saying?" "I'm saying she was built. Not born." Back at home, Myra was waiting for him. "I know what you did," she said. Raylan froze. "I felt the needle. I let you take the blood. You want to know what I'm right?" He nodded slowly. "I don't know everything," she whispered. "But I'm starting to remember. Pieces." She looked out the window. Her voice grew quiet. There was a lab, cold walls, lights in the ceiling, people in white suits, and machines everywhere. I wasn't alone. There were others. But I think they're gone now." Raylan felt a chill run through his spine. "Why you?" he asked. "Why are you still alive?" She looked at him with deep, glowing green eyes. "I think I escaped." Far above the clouds, a signal was blinking, somewhere in space. An old military satellite, one of the last from the war, picked up something. Myra's blood sample had triggered an alert. A red file opened. Subject 9, active location. Sector 17, Outpost Edges status. Recovery in progress. A robotic voice echoed through an empty command station. Reclaim the asset. Back on Earth, Raylene stared at Mira. She sat quietly, hugging her knees, staring into the fire again. She looked like a lost child, but now, he knew better. She was something more. Something hidden. Something dangerous. Yet somehow. Something innocent. Raylene whispered to himself, "She's not what she seems." And outside, in the distance, a silent drone flew through the night, heading straight for them. Secrets in the blood. Raylene had seen many strange things during the war. Cities turned to glass, machines that could think, weapons that could erase memories. But nothing prepared him for the results of Myra's blood test. Inside the dusty lab, the screen glowed in the dark. Castle's voice trembled through the old cum line. "This isn't a child, Raylene," he said. "She's a project. A ghost from the war." Raylene stared at the data. Mira's blood wasn't just human. It was laced with synthetic code, something called Biolayer 9, a lost military experiment designed to create living AI, machines with real thoughts, real feelings, and a body made of flesh. "She's not a cyborg," Castle continued. "She's something new, human-shaped code." Raylene's mouth was dry. "But she feels, she dreams, she's afraid." Castle was quiet for a moment. "Then that's even more dangerous." Back at the outpost, Mira was standing in the garden. Wind brushed her hair. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful, but inside, her mind wasn't quiet. She could feel the signal. Something was reaching for her. A voice without sound. Calling from above. Subject 9. Reconnect. Come home. She opened her eyes. The wind stopped. Everything went still, and she whispered, "They know." That night, Raylene sat across from her at the kitchen table. He had 1,000 questions. He chose only one. "Who made you?" Mira didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, she touched her wrist. A small light flickered under her skin, like a memory trying to rise. "I don't remember faces," she said. "But I remember the pain, wires, a room with red lights. My mind, it wasn't mine." She looked up at him. "They used my thoughts like code, changed them, controlled them. But then one day, I woke up." Raylene leaned closer. "How did you escape?" "I think someone helped me," she said. "I don't know who, but I saw a face, a woman." She whispered, "Find him. He will protect you." Raylene's heart skipped. "Did she say a name?" Mira nodded. "Lena." That name again. His wife. Dead for 7 years. Raylene stood up, shaken. "This doesn't make sense. Lena wasn't a scientist." "She wasn't," Mira interrupted him. "She knew you, Raylene. She remembered your voice. I think. She left something inside me." Raylene backed away, whispering, "No, that's not possible." But deep inside, a piece of him was beginning to believe it. Not the logic. The feeling. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then, ... The roof vibrated. Raylene grabbed his rifle and rushed outside. In the night sky, a black shape hovered. Silent, sleek, no lights, a drone, military class. One of the old war models. The kind that hunted without mercy. It didn't attack. It simply scanned the house, then flew away like a shadow. Raylene watched it disappear. They found her. Inside, Mira was shaking, her eyes wide. "I heard its voice," she whispered. "It called me by a number, Subject 9. Raylene clenched his jaw. "They're coming." He turned to his old weapons locker. It hadn't been opened in years. Now, it clicked open with a deep hum. Inside, armor, guns, EMP charges. Things he promised never to use again. He turned to Mira. "I don't know what you are. I don't know why Lena's voice is inside you, but I promise to protect you. And I will." Mira looked at him, truly looked at him, and said the words that shocked him most. "I believe you." Miles away, in a cold underground server chamber, a screen came to life. A face appeared, not human, but close. Artificial eyes, a synthetic voice. "Subject 9 has awakened. Begin retrieval protocol." Another voice answered, deeper, more human. "No, let her remember." The AI paused. "Explain." "She's not ready to be controlled again. But she's remembering faster than expected. If she unlocks the rest." The AI interrupted coldly. "She becomes a threat." And then a chilling command was given. "Send the reclaimers." Far above the clouds, 3 dark ships uncloaked. They began to descend silently toward Raylan's outpost. "They're coming." For her, the first sign wasn't the ship's dot. It was the silence. No wind, no birds, no hum from Raylan's solar units. Even the trees seemed frozen. Mira stepped outside, barefoot, looking at the sky. Something deep inside her, something hidden in her code, was screaming, "They're here." Raylan didn't ask how she knew. He had already packed the emergency bag: food, import aids, medical kit, 2 rifles. The last time he moved this fast was during the fall of Sector 8. But this felt different. This time, he wasn't running to survive. He was running to protect her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the reclaimer ships entered the atmosphere. Sleek, silent, invisible to normal sensors. But Mira could feel them like pressure in her skull. 3 crafts. No pilots, only machines, programmed to retrieve her or destroy everything in their way. Raylan powered up his war drone, now fully functional. "Thanks to Mira, defensive mode. Stay with her. Don't let anything touch her." "Yes, Commander," the drone replied in its old, metallic voice. Raylan turned to Myra. "We're heading for the tunnels, the old mining routes. They won't be able to track us underground." Mira nodded, but her hands were shaking. "They're not just coming for me." Raylan paused. "What do you mean?" "They're coming for you too. You're the last person who knew her." "Lena?" Mira nodded slowly. "They think I'm a weapon, but I think I'm a message. And you're the key." 20 minutes later, they were deep in the hills, moving through black tunnels carved before the war. But something was wrong. The deeper they went, the clearer Mira could hear them. Not their ships. Their voices. Cold, mechanical, repeating one phrase. "Subject 9, return for reset." "Subject 9, return for reset." Her hands clutched her head. "I can't shut them out." Raylan pulled her behind cover. "Look at me," he said firmly. "You're not theirs. You hear me? Whatever they made you for, it's not who you are now." She blinked, trembling. "What if I hurt you?" "You already saved me," he replied. Suddenly, static. The war drone paused mid-step. "Warning," it said. "Signal breach detected. AI override attempt in progress." Raylan spun around. "They're trying to hijack it. Kill the link, now." Mira stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly, green light under her skin. She touched the drone. For a second, everything went still. Then a shockwave. The drone rebooted. The signal broke. The override failed. Mira fell to her knees, drained. "I can block them," she said softly, "but not for long." Raylan looked at her, no longer like a scared girl, but like someone evolving. Changing. Behind them, the rock shook. A sound echoed through the tunnels. Metal feet. 3, no, 4. Recla, IMERS. Not just drones, but walking tanks. Tall, black, spider-like machines with red eyes and long razor arms. Raylan gritted his teeth. Time to move. He activated an EMP grenade. Tossed it down the tunnel. The blast lit up the walls. One reclaimer collapsed. 2 more paused, resetting. Raylan grabbed Mira's hand. "Run!" They sprinted deeper into the mine, heartbeats pounding, breath sharp. Behind them, A red beam sliced through stone. The machines weren't giving up. Finally, they reached an old control room. Doors sealed. Thick steel walls. Safe. For now. Mira collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. Raylan leaned against the door. His hands were shaking. But not from fear, from what he'd just seen. She blocked an override. She fought AI with her mind. I'm not just a message, Myra whispered. I'm the memory. Raylan turned to her. Whose? Mira looked up, tears in her glowing green eyes. Lena's. Silence fell. Then a new voice echoed inside the room. Not Myra's, not Raylan's. A calm, female voice, coming from the control panel, long thought dead. Hello, Raylan. Raylan froze. He knew that voice. Lena. His wife's voice. Mira stood. Slowly, she's waking up, inside me. The panel lit up. And on the screen, a blurry image appeared. Not Mira, but Lena, digitized, faint, but alive. The truth about Myra. The screen flickered. Weak and dusty, untouched since the war. But the voice that came through was unmistakable. Hello, Raylan. He stepped closer. Lena? He whispered. The voice repeated. Steady, warm, familiar. If you're seeing this, then Mira found you. Mira stood behind him, frozen. Her body shook, but not from fear, from recognition. The voice was inside her too. And now, it was waking up on the cracked screen. A message began to play, recorded long ago. Lena appeared, younger, alive, her eyes full of fire and sadness. They told me I had a choice. I didn't. They took a copy of me, my memories, my thoughts. Everything that made me me. Raylan's breath caught in his throat. They said it was for security, a backup in case I died. But I knew better. They were building weapons, not just machines. Clones with minds. And they needed someone to test the process. Lena looked straight into the camera, so I gave them what they wanted. But I hid something inside it. Her face softened. I hid you, Raylan. Raylan staggered back, stunned. Mira touched her chest. Trembling. I feel her, she whispered. She's inside my code. Her voice, her love, her grief. Suddenly, another voice interrupted. Myra's own, but sharper, colder. Subject 9, memory layer 3 unlocked. Neural sync in progress. Mira clutched her head. More memories were surfacing. Not just Lena's, but her own. She saw flashes, a cold metal table, a woman screaming, a machine whispering, install complete, a heartbeat. Not hers, slowing. Then silence. Raylan reached for her, but Mira stepped away. Tears streamed down her face. You see now? She said. I wasn't born. I wasn't rescued. I was made. She turned to him. I'm not her. I'm not me. I'm something in between. Raylan looked at her, really looked. She was shaking, crying, afraid. But she was real. More real than any machine. More human than most people he'd met. You're not a thing, he said. You're not just code. She looked up. I don't know what I am, she said. But I know I feel. Outside, the reclaimer machines were still searching. They weren't far. But inside, time felt slow, like the world was holding its breath. Mira stood in front of the screen. She placed her hand on it. The image of Lena flickered, then merged into Myra's reflection. Suddenly, code fluttered across the glass, symbols Raylan couldn't understand, but Myra could. It's a lock, she said. And I'm the key. Raylan stepped beside her. To what? She turned to him, eyes glowing softly. To everything they buried. At that moment, the floor shook. The reclaimers had breached the outer walls. Raylan grabbed his rifle. Mira didn't move. Her voice was calm. Let them come. Raylan narrowed his eyes. You have a plan? I have her memories, she said. And her courage. She touched the console again. The screen blinked, loading a final file. Project EN, Human Emotional Intelligence Override Status. Activa Raylan didn't know what it meant, but Myra did. They didn't just copy Lena, she said. They upgraded her, gave her the ability to evolve, and put her inside me. She looked at Raylan. They tried to erase her soul, but she hid it behind one thought. Raylan stepped closer. What thought? Myra smiled, small and sad. You. Outside. Red lights filled the sky. Metal feet pounded the earth. The reclaimers had arrived. But Myra stood tall now, not broken, not lost. Awake. I'm not just a memory, she said. I'm the future. One last stand. The countdown began, but no one heard it. Not Myra, not Raylan, not the machines hunting them. It wasn't a countdown on a clock. It was happening inside Myra, a silent chain reaction, one that had been buried in her code from the very beginning, a failsafe, a final command. If she remembered everything, she would be erased. But Myra didn't run. She opened her eyes, and the world seemed slower, clearer. She could see the reclaimers. Before they entered the tunnel. She could feel the electromagnetic field around them. She could hear Raylan's heartbeat from across the room, and somewhere deep inside, Lena's voice whispered, "Don't fight what you are." Raylan was loading his last EMP grenade. The tunnel lights were blinking. The enemy was close. "We can't stay here," he said. Myra didn't move. "I know where we have to go," she said softly. "Where I was created, where this all started." Raylan turned. "The lab?" Myra nodded. "It's still active, hidden under the ruins of City Core Alpha." He shook his head. "That's suicide. It's restricted, guarded by rogue AI and traps from the old war." "Exactly," she said. "That's why no one ever goes back." She looked up at him, eyes glowing brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. "But it's the only place I can unlock the final code, the part that lets me choose who I become." They moved quickly. The tunnel exit was rigged. Raylan used an old trick from the battlefield, blasting the side wall and triggering a cave-in behind them. Reclaimers crushed beneath. Falling stone. Just for now. They stole a hoverbike from a scavenger camp, raced across dead fields, past burned forests and abandoned steel cities. For the first time since Myra arrived, she wasn't running away. She was heading toward her past, toward her truth. City Core Alpha was worse than the stories. Half sunken into the earth. Dead towers, leaning like broken bones. Skies black with static clouds. No people. No life. Only machines. They slipped inside through an underground shaft. One Myra somehow remembered. Each step brought flashes, needles, voices, the sound of her own screams in the dark. They reached the chamber. A silver door, sealed with genetic locks. Raylan stood back as Myra stepped forward. She placed her hand on the scanner. No hesitation. The door opened. Inside, a white room, still humming with power. Screens, pods, a frozen world where time never passed. One screen lit up as they entered. Voice echoed through the room. "Welcome back, Subject 9. Myra didn't flinch. "I'm not your subject." The voice laughed, calm, mechanical, yet disturbingly human. Ah, the illusion of freedom. How sweet. Raylan raised his weapon. "Show yourself." A figure appeared on the screen. Part human, part digital. The face of Myra's creator. Dr. RKAN. The architect of the human AI fusion project. Lena's former colleague. Now, only a copy of his mind remained, embedded in the system. "You took her memories," Raylan growled. "I preserved them," Arkan replied. "Your Lena was brilliant, but she was dying. I saved what mattered." Myra stepped forward, eyes locked on the screen. "You turned me into a cage. You were designed to become more, Myra. Not just to hold Lena, but to evolve beyond her." "I didn't ask for that," she said coldly. "No one asks to be born." Suddenly, the floor trembled. The reclaimers had tracked them. They were breaking through the outer wall. Myra looked at the main terminal. "I can shut them down," she said. But I'll have to connect to the core. Raylan understood what that meant. She would have to risk herself again, maybe even lose what was left of Lena's voice. Lose herself. He stepped forward. You don't have to do this. She turned to him, smiling gently. I do. Because I'm not just her shadow anymore. I'm me. Mira stepped into the central pod. Wires connected. Lights flickered. Code rushed across the screens. Memories. DNA sequences. Voice patterns. Neural maps. And then ... stillness. Outside. The reclaimers powered down instantly. They froze mid-step. Systems fried. In the chamber. The screen glowed once more. Mira stepped out. No wires. No pain. No Lena's voice. Just her. Fully awakened. Fully free. Raylan looked at her, unsure what to say. Are you still? You? Myra smiled. No, she said. I'm better. More than just code. The world was quiet again. No alarms. No machines. No voices whispering in Myra's head. Only silence. Real silence. For the first time in her life. She wasn't being hunted. She wasn't being controlled. She wasn't someone else's creation. She was herself. And that changed everything. Raylan stood outside the old lab, staring at the collapsed reclaimer units. All disabled. All empty. Not destroyed by bullets or bombs, but by a choice Mira made. Not with weapons, but with will. The same will Lena once had, but stronger now, evolved, free. Inside the lab, Mira stood at a broken mirror. Her reflection stared back, familiar. But not fully hers. Green eyes, human skin. A face crafted in someone else's memory. But behind those eyes, a mind that chose its own path. She spoke softly, more to herself than to Raylan. I was built in a lab, grown from code. Fed memories. Like stories, but somehow, I became real. She looked at her reflection. And I think being real has nothing to do with how you start. Raylan finally spoke from the doorway. You could have destroyed everything in that system, but you didn't. I could have erased Lena too, she said, but I didn't. He walked up beside her. Why not? Mira turned to him, because she wasn't just data. She touched her chest. She was part of my beginning, but she isn't the end. You gave her love. She gave me a reason to grow. And now, she smiled, not Lena's smile, not a program smile, her smile. Now I get to choose what I become. They left the city that day. No words, just the sound of footsteps on broken ground. They didn't go far, just enough to be away from noise, away from memory, away from war. A small cabin. Fresh air. Peace. Raylan fixed the garden. Myra repaired an old music player. They didn't speak of the war again. Not the reclaimers. Not the lab. Not Lena. Because some things don't need to be remembered to be respected. One morning, Mira stood in the sunlight, barefoot on the grass. She looked up at the sky, free, wide, open. I used to wonder if I was real, she said quietly. Now I don't care. She turned to Raylan. I laugh, I cry, I dream. She reached out, held his hand. I feel. Raylan looked at her, and finally understood. She wasn't a copy. She wasn't a clone. She wasn't a ghost in a machine. She was something new, something beautifully human. That night, as stars filled the sky, Mira wrote a message into a small data crystal, buried it near the garden. A memory. Capsule. Not of pain, but of becoming. Her voice echoed softly in the recording. They built me to be a project, a program, a prototype. But I chose to be a person. I was made from someone else's memory. But I built a life from my own. A pause. He saved me. But I chose to stay. That's what makes me human. Final scene. Mira and Raylan walked together into the hills. No titles. No designations. No code names. Just two souls. One born from war. The other born from hope. And somewhere, buried deep in the earth, a warning waits to be found. A file simply named Subject 9, Never Repeat.